welcome to Alena Media TV. We are broadcasting from Toronto, Canada. I am Elsa Abraham, and in this episode we are bringing you Editorial. In the age of social distancing, Sudanese opened their homes to Ethiopian refugees. Let's go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll get our editorial in details. Welcome back from that short break. Residents of border town Hamdiyet are hosting people fleeing the Tigray conflict. Despite the pandemic, Yasmin Amin hosts around 60 Ethiopian refugees in her home. She already shares the house in Sudan's border town of Hamdiyet with 14 family members. They had nowhere else to go, so we opened our homes to them, the 20-year-old said. Since November last year, Ethiopian federal government troops have been fighting the regional government of Tigray in the east of the country. Ethiopian forces aim to oust the Tigray People's Liberation Front after it seized federal military bases in the region. The conflict has forced more than 60,000 Ethiopians to flee to neighboring Sudan, says the Sudanese government. Jamnet, a 43-year-old, comes from Tigray's agricultural hub of Humera. She fled with her family after their house was destroyed. They hoped to find food and shelter, but only get blankets and a bottle of water upon arrival in Hamdiyet. Our numbers were greater than the supplies available in the camp, she said. We ended up being hosted by a Sudanese family. This is our second month living with them. Zahra Abduka, a 25-year-old Sudanese woman who lives with her husband, and 4 children in Hamdiyet, decided to host Janet and her 8 family members after seeing the shortage of supplies. Although we are not leading an easy life and we suffer from soaring prices, we have decided we can't leave the refugees to starve, so we opened our homes to them, sharing with them the little food we have, Abduka said. Hamed Abduka, 28, who hosts 3 Ethiopian families in the house he shares with his brother and sister, is enjoying the same experience. It is very nice to have these families live with us. We eat together and have afternoon tea together. Instead of being just 3 people in the house with almost the same daily routine, we are now 18 people living in the same house, and it's adding a different, lively vibe to our life, he said. When I come back from work in the afternoon, I find them all sitting around a tree in our house, and some of our neighbors join too, Mr. Abduka says. Language is not an issue as his family knows a smattering of the Tigray language. In light of the regular movement between Hamdiyet and Humera, the refugees have also started to pick up some Arabic, he said. Sudan has a long history of hosting refugees. During the Ethiopian Civil War from 1974 to 1991, Sudan hosted thousands of Ethiopian refugees in Rakolba camp in the state of Kadaref. The mayor of Hamdiyet, Taher Bartid, said authorities were surprised by the large numbers of refugees arriving. We had to act swiftly and open the town's homes to them, he says, as the refugee camp in Hamdiyet is not big enough to host these members. The 300-person camp in Hamdiyet is part of the reception center where refugees are hosted temporarily until their relocation to a proper camp. Director of the Refugee Reception Center in Hamdiyet, Yayok Mohammed Yayok, said his spontaneous act of hosting the refugees in people's houses were facilitated by familiar links. Some of the town's residents are married to Ethiopian women, given the trade and people movement between the two sides. but not all residents received the refugees with open arms. Hamdiyat resident Imad Omar says their presence led to food shortages and created problems. I would go to buy bread in the morning to find there was none left due to higher demand after the refugees arrived. Also, some refugees entered Hamdiyat with their own crops and started selling them at lower prices. He told the National Hamdiyat residents, who are mostly farmers, were angered by the undercutting, he said. In the beginning, we were annoyed, but after that we started coping. For example, bakeries increased their bread production, Mr. Omar added. But these are not the only challenges. Houses crammed with refugees pose a health risk to both the residents and refugees in the age of coronavirus. Mr. Yariok said Hamdiyat has around 6,000 residents and has hosted at least 16,000 refugees over the last 2 months. Every family in Hamdiyat hosts at least one Ethiopian family of refugees. The town's mayor says, but refugees and their hosts, the risk of contacting coronavirus is far from their minds, with more immediate problems looming. I am fleeing war. I don't care about getting sick. This statement was made by a 69-year-old Ethiopian farmer, Zarari Abrahi, who walked for 3 hours from Humera to safety in Hamdiyat with his wife and 3 children, aged 10, 9, and 9 months old. Mr. Abrahi left Humera 2 months ago after losing all his crops on the ongoing conflict. Officials says there have been no COVID-19 cases in Hamdiyat so far. Abdel Hafiz Mohammed Khalil, an official of the Sudanese Commission of Refugees in Kadarif, says that all refugees have their temperature measured upon arrival in Hamdiyat, but there are no COVID-19 tests. If there are any suspected cases, they are transferred to other cities with bigger facilities, he said. So far, no suspected cases appeared in Hamdiyat. We had 30 suspected cases in Rakoba, of which only 4 were confirmed of COVID-19 cases and received treatment immediately. To date, Sudan has announced a total number of 23,100 COVID-19 cases since the virus was first detected in the country in March 2020. The latest COVID-19 figures available for Kassala State, where Hamdiyat is located, are from December 19, 2020. The Health Ministry announced a total of 301 cases in the state since the start of the pandemic and 9 new cases on that day. Mohamed Rafiq Nasir, the director of the UN Refugee Agency Bureau in Khartoum, Al-Gerba in Kassala, said the organization is doing its best to provide aid in coordination with the Sudanese government. But the level of support available to us from donor countries is modest. We've been asking for more and we've been promised to be given more support. It is the government's duty to transfer refugees from border areas to safe locations, while our duty is to provide aid to them. Between 500 and 400 refugees are transferred daily from Hamdiyat to Rakoba, where every refugee family resides separately to avoid large gatherings, he said. According to the Sudanese government, 45,235 refugees have entered Hamdiyat since the start of the conflict in the Tigray region, out of which 26,632 remain. The rest have been transferred to other locations. Hundreds of refugees continue to enter Hamdiyat on a daily basis. This is where we end today's episode of Editorial. Please like, share, comment, let us know your thoughts. Make sure you hit the notification button so that anytime we make a post, you will get to know about it. Thanks for watching.